Hello, this is Jinju at kimchimarie.com. Today I'm going to share how to make Kalguksu, knife-cut noodles. So we have a cup of flour here, about a quarter teaspoon of salt, and 70 milliliter, which is about a quarter cup, and 2 teaspoons of water. And then we're going to make it into a dough. My dough is on the drier side than most. Most recipes will tell you to use 1 to 3 or 3 to 1 flour to water. But I find that if you make it a little drier, it may be a little harder to knead at first, but once you knead it and roll it out, the noodles are much easier to handle. They don't stick to each other as much. Also, the noodles come out a lot chewier. So I prefer to make it this way. So you can see that it does become a dough, a ball. And it's not as stretchy because we haven't let the gluten develop yet. So we'll wrap it with a saran wrap or put it in a plastic bag, and we'll let it rest for about 30 minutes. Now before I show you how the dough changes after 30 minutes, here's another way of making the dough. You can use a stand mixer, use the same recipe, add the same amount of flour and water. Now, as I said, because my dough is on the dry side, the stand mixer may have a little bit of a problem in the beginning to get it all incorporated. So what you can do is just use your hands a little bit, get in there and just put it all together, and then turn the mixer on again, and it will have you will have a wonderful soft dough that's been kneaded by a machine, not your hands. So here it is after resting for 30 minutes. See how the dough is a lot more pliable, it's softer, it's a lot stretchier, doesn't break, it keeps on stretching. So that means it's going to be very nice and chewy. So we're going to roll out the dough. My husband is helping me out here. If you read my blog post, you'll read a story about him and making these noodles. So anyway, we are going to continue to roll it out. And because, again, my dough is nice and not too wet, it's not going to stick as much, which also means you don't need to use a lot of additional flour. When you sprinkle a lot of flour when making these kalguksu noodles, what happens is your the end result, your soup broth, is going to become pretty thick and milky, which I don't particularly enjoy. So we just sprinkled some flour there to make sure it doesn't stick, and we rolled it over. Then we're going to cut it. And when you cut the noodles, you have to be careful not to press too hard, because then they can easily stick to each other and all get mushed up. So once you cut them, so watch closely again, be very gingerly about cutting them. And then once you've cut them, and don't wait until you cut the whole length, stop in between and toss the noodles, because the longer you leave it, they'll start to stick together. So one more time, here's another, the other half of that dough. By the way, this is for 1 serving. My husband can eat up this whole bowl pretty quickly. So here we go again. We're going to cut the noodles into about 1/4 inch width, and the dough, you can roll it out as thin as you want or as thick as you want. So we're cutting them and then tossing a little bit of flour on them, and just toss them, and they'll easily just separate. So if you're going to cook these noodles right away, you can just leave it like this. If you want to store them, you can, but then you should let it dry for a few hours so that they're not going to become one sticky mess inside the fridge. So anyway, here's that was a last close-up. Now we're going to cut some vegetables, about a 2/3 cup of zucchini into matchsticks, about a quarter of the onion, and I have a potato here. I sometimes use it, I don't. It depends on you. The potato will make the broth a little more thicker, but it also adds, you know, the nice potato nutty flavor. So if you like it, you can do that. Otherwise, you can just skip the potato. Anyway, so cut all of these vegetables into matchsticks, and we're going to cook these together with the noodles in the soup. So let's make the broth. So my favorite broth is the dried anchovy broth. So I use a large tea bag and put about a 1/3 cup of anchovies. I also have some dried shrimp, so I decided to add those. Those are optional, but they definitely add more flavor. So to 4 cups of water, we add a piece of dried kelp, the dried anchovies and shrimp, and we'll let it simmer for about 30 minutes. And you will have a wonderful broth when it's done. Well, so let's make some beef topping. To about a 1/4 cup of ground beef, we add about a 1.5 teaspoon of soy sauce, the same amount of cooking sake or mirin, and just about a 1/2 teaspoon of garlic. We mix it all together. We also add some black pepper, and if you don't have fresh garlic, you can also use some dried garlic powder here. So then we're going to just saute these seasoned beef in a frying pan until they're all well cooked, and break them up so that they're not in huge lumps. Right, let's make the sauce. So we're going to chop up some. Here I have some shishito peppers. You can also do green chili peppers, jalapeno peppers, whatever spice level you like. And here I'm just chopping up 1 shishito pepper, but actually 2 works best because shishito peppers are not very spicy. So we'll chop them up here, and then we'll set them aside. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to chop up some green onions. Also green onions, you should actually chop up 2. So one we're going to use in the sauce, and the other you can top the noodle soup with. So we'll chop all the green onions like so, put that aside, and then finally we're going to smash a couple cloves of garlic, and then we'll chop them up. And for this part, you should really use fresh garlic. Garlic powder will just not be enough. But a lot of times for, you know, just simple like ground beef seasoning, sometimes I'm too lazy and I just use garlic powder too. So in a bowl, let's put some green onions, about a tablespoon, some of the chopped chili peppers, and the garlic. And we're going to add some sesame oil, about 1/2 teaspoon, and we're going to mix these first. The reason why I mix it with the sesame oil first is because that way the green onions get coated in oil and it doesn't change as fast once you put the other stuff in. So that was about a tablespoon of soy sauce and about 2 teaspoons of red chili powder. Right, now let's get back to the broth. So let's take out all the anchovies and the kelp. We'll season it with 1/2 teaspoon of salt and 1/2 teaspoon of gukkanjang, which is Korean soup soy sauce. And that really makes a big difference, so try to get that. Then we just added some onions, and we'll boil it for about 5 minutes. And then we're going to add the noodles. Now, if you're going to use packaged noodles, store-bought ones, you should follow the directions there. But for these fresh-made noodles, they only need to be cooked about 3 to 5 minutes. 3 minutes for al dente. And so we want to also add the zucchini right away with the noodles. If you're going to cook potatoes, actually that should have gone in with the onions because they take a little longer to cook. So you should just swirl them around so the noodles are not all in one clump. And then, oh, oops, I forgot green onions here, so I just added it and that will work fine. So we're going to plate it. We're going to transfer the noodles and the wonderful soup into a bowl. And here you'll see that I just made some puchu kimchi, chives kimchi. That goes wonderfully well with kalguksu. And there we go. We're topping it with some beef topping, some green onions, and the tadegi, the spicy chili sauce. It's a must for these noodle soup. And there we go. There we have it. It's chow time. So we'll mix it all up and you can enjoy this wonderfully warm, chewy noodles that you just made with some puchu kimchi or kachari goes great with it. So here I'm trying to show you how it goes wonderfully with the puchu kimchi. But of course, meanwhile, you can hear my husband already eating that other bowl and he's slurping it away. Well, that's it. I hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. Thank you.